It has been more than 8 years since the last Harry Potter movie premiered, but the franchise is just as popular today as it was back then. Although the Fantastic Beasts films give us the opportunity to learn even more about the wizarding world, fans of Harry, Ron, and Hermione have no choice but to keep rewatching the original films on repeat. But no matter how often you have seen them, we bet there are still some small details you haven't noticed yet, and to make your next trip back to Hogwarts even more exciting, we found 7 Harry Potter secrets hidden throughout the movies. The scenes in the Great Hall at Hogwarts are some of the best scenes in every movie, from the first time Harry and his fellow classmates enter the hall to the feasts at the beginning and the end of each year. But while everyone will remember all the delicious dishes and the incredible amount of food appearing on the tables out of nowhere, we bet hardly any of you noticed that the students also eat very special cereals for breakfast. In one scene from Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, for example, Harry, Ron, and Hermione walk through the Great Hall talking, and viewers will obviously focus on them and not so much on what's going on around them. However, if you pay attention to the table on their left, you can see that students at Hogwarts have wizard-themed versions of popular cereals, such as Cheery Owls, for instance.
Your attention, please.
Let the feast begin.
If you've read the Harry Potter books, you will remember a few details that didn't make it into the movies. However, there are a few minor details that actually did appear in the films. You probably just never noticed. One example comes from the first part of the series. Very early on in the book, it's mentioned that Aunt Petunia is dyeing Dudley's old school uniforms gray for Harry to use at a less prestigious school.
But you're going to go to the state school where you belong. And this is what you're going to be wearing when I've finished dyeing it.
But that's Dudley's old uniform. It'll fit me like bits of old elephant skin.
It'll fit you well enough. Go and get the post.
Of course, this detail isn't important enough to be mentioned aloud in the film, so the scene where Harry's aunt informs him about this was deleted. But if you pay close attention, you can actually spot Aunt Petunia dyeing the uniform gray in the background of the scene where Harry receives his first letter from Hogwarts. After arriving at Hogwarts for the very first time and being sorted into the houses by the sorting hat, the students get to enjoy the first feast of the school year. It is in this scene that Harry sees Professor Snape for the very first time, and it is also the first time that his scar begins to burn. Because the scar burns as Snape is looking at him, Harry starts believing that Snape is evil and the reason behind the burning sensation. However, upon rewatching the scene, you might notice that Snape is actually not the only one facing Harry. What we can also spot is the back of Professor Quirrell's head, and although no one knew it at the time, we later find out that Quirrell is hiding Voldemort's face under his turban, which means that Harry is actually not only facing Snape during the feast, but also his mortal enemy.
Say, Percy, who's that teacher talking to Professor Quirrell?
Oh, that's Professor Snape, head of Slytherin House.
What's he teach?
Potions. But everyone knows it's the dark arts he fancies. He's been after Quirrell's job for years.
The Harry Potter movies are packed with small details you might only notice when rewatching them, and one of these details can be found in the scene where Neville receives his Remember-All in the first movie. After unpacking the magical glass ball, it quickly turns red in Neville's hand, thus showing that he must have forgotten something. As Neville tells his friends that the only problem with this is that he can never remember what he forgot, you might notice that Neville is actually the only one around who is not wearing his Hogwarts robes. While there are some moments and details that can only be found in the books, this one is actually one example of how the movies added little nuances as well, as it is only included in the film adaptation. In the last film, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, Harry realizes there's a Horcrux at Hogwarts somehow connected to Rowena Ravenclaw. So he, Ron, and Hermione apparate into Hogsmeade, where Aberforth Dumbledore reluctantly instructs the portrait of his deceased younger sister, Ariana, to fetch Neville Longbottom, who leads the trio through a secret passageway into Hogwarts. At this point, Severus Snape is the headmaster of the school and appears to be fighting on Voldemort's side. hide. So when he hears of Harry's return to Hogwarts, he warns staff and students of punishment for aiding Harry. Harry eventually confronts Snape, but it is Professor McGonagall who ends up challenging Snape to a duel. If you pay close attention during this scene, you can actually see that Snape is actually still fighting for Dumbledore and against Voldemort. As Minerva McGonagall advances her attack on Snape, he not only doesn't shoot any curses back at her, but also doesn't just defend himself. Instead, Snape actually redirects McGonagall's attacks in the direction of the Death Eaters around him, knocking them down before he eventually flees through the window behind him.
How dare you stand where he stood? Tell them how it happened that night. Tell them how you looked him in the eye, a man who trusted you and killed him. Tell them.
In Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, Harry and Dumbledore are on the hunt for the Horcruxes that Voldemort has created. In order to find clues as to what kind of items he could have used to store parts of his soul in, the duo revisits several memories connected to Tom Riddle, aka Voldemort. One of these memories is Dumbledore's first encounter with Tom Riddle when he visited him in the Muggle Run orphanage in London, where Tom grew up and told the young boy that he was a magician. In this scene, Dumbledore and Tom Riddle are in the boy's bedroom, and if you pay close attention to some of the details shown in the room, you might find clues about the Horcruxes yourself. First of all, there's a photo of the Cliffs of Moher, and thus the very cave where Voldemort would later hide one of his Horcruxes. Secondly, the scene also offers a close-up of 7 stones carefully lined up on the windowsill. As you might know, 7 is a very important number in the wizarding world, and we constantly meet it throughout the series, starting with the fact that there are 7 books in this series. However, the 7 stones lined up on Tom's windowsill are also foreshadowing the fact that Voldemort will eventually split his soul into 7 parts.
I can make bad things happen to people who are mean to me. I can make them hurt. If I want. Who are you?
Well, I'm like you, Tom. I'm different.
There are a lot of duel and fight scenes in the last part in the film series, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, and they reach a climax in the Battle of Hogwarts. As Voldemort and the Death Eaters approach Hogwarts, they break the protective shield that has been set up by the wizards in the castle, giving them a little more time to prepare. Once the barrier is broken, the battle begins, and Harry, Ron, and Hermione make a break to attack Snape. On their run through the castle, they encounter several obstacles, and this is where one of the best secrets of the entire film series is hidden. As they make their way through the castle, the trio basically relives all of the previous movies with the exception of the Deathly Hallows Part 1, as they encounter symbols from every movie that preceded these last 2 parts in the series. They first come across a troll, and you will surely remember how the 3 fought a troll in the Philosopher's Stone, and subsequently became inseparable. Next, they encounter spiders, which play a big role in the Chamber of Secrets, of course, and if you don't remember the spiders, you will surely remember Ron's face when he and Harry met Aragog and his family in the Forbidden Forest. After this, the trio happens upon Fenrir Greyback, who is not only a werewolf, but also the one who bit Remus Lupin, who plays an important part in the events of The Prisoner of Azkaban, of course. In this scene, Greyback has just killed Lavender Brown, who is the symbol of the Goblet of Fire, as she is an innocent victim similar to Cedric Diggory, who was tragically killed in Part 4 of the series. As Harry, Ron, and Hermione continue running, they are attacked by Dementors, which play an important role in several movies, but especially in the Order of the Phoenix. After fending them off with the help of Aberforth, the 3 make their way down to the Shrieking Shack, where they find Snape, who is the Half-Blood Prince, and thus eponymous of the 6th part of the series, of course, and who is about to be killed by Voldemort. So, the trio's run through the school during the Battle of Hogwarts actually functions as a recap of the entire series, which is a pretty amazing detail to hide in a scene as chaotic as this one.
Thank you for checking this video out, and don't forget to smash that like button and also subscribe for new videos every day. Turn that bell notification on and comment down below that you subscribed, and we'll make sure to reply and thank as many of you as we possibly can. Once again, thank you for watching and see you next time.